Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Frog Erat Numen Wetlands deck profile. And I'm really excited to see you guys because this was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Izzy. And Izzy wanted to see a deck that could actually make use of Erat Numen, which is an insanely powerful card that can lock down your opponent from summoning monsters, which is a really insane thing for this deck to be able to do. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Izzy some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such a wild, awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Tetsudo Erat Numen. This card is a really awesome lockdown card for this deck because it has the ability that neither player can special summon monsters with 1800 or more attack. It's a very simple effect, and it's really easy to summon this card onto your side of the field, especially with cards like Wetlands, to boost its attack points up to make it where they really can't get over this card as well because they can't summon anything large enough to actually get rid of it. We then play a single copy of Numen Erat Tetsudo. This card is a level 5 monster, which is why I'm only playing a single copy of this card, but neither player can special summon monsters with 1800 or less attack. I wanted to play at least one of this one in this particular deck, but I usually just summon the level 1 in this particular build compared to the level 5. We then play 3 copies of Swap Frog. Swap Frog is one of the best cards in the entire deck because you can discard a water monster to special summon this card from your hand, and when this card is summoned, you get to select and send one level 2 or lower aqua monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then it has the ability also that you can return one monster you control to your hand to normal summon a frog monster to your side of the field to be able to just give you additional summons to your side of the field to get those level 2s to go into more plays. We then play 3 copies of Dupe Frog. Dupe Frog is really good because this card is a great card to banish from the graveyard for your Ronin Totem. It has 2,000 defense points, and it becomes Death Frog while in the field or in the graveyard, but it also has the ability that your opponent cannot select another monster for an attack target, and when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a frog monster except another copy of itself from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is a great effect just to be able to get additional cards rolling. We then play 2 copies of Ronin Totem. You can banish a frog monster from the graveyard, special this card to your field. Helps you go in for totally awesome, which is why you play 2 copies of it. We play 3 copies of Cryomancer of the Ice Barrier. This card, when you control another Ice Barrier, level 4 or higher monsters cannot declare attacks, just closing that gap a little bit more with the Erat Numens to lock down your opponent. We play 3 copies of Prior of the Ice Barrier. If you control face-up Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field, but you can't special summon level 5 or higher monsters turn you activate this effect. The main effect of this card that you're trying to summon it to your side of the field so you can XZ summon with it anyways because it is an aqua monster. And then for the last 3 monsters, we're playing 3 copies of Duedark. Duedark is really good because if the only face-up monster you control are level 2 or lower, then you get to attack your opponent's life points directly, which comboed with this card with Wetlands equals a 2400 attack point monster that can attack your opponent directly, which is a great effect to be able to just start slowly whittling away at your opponent's life points. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're playing a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good in here because it's going to search one of the best cards in the entire deck, which is 3 copies of Wetlands. Wetlands is a really interesting card and helps out the deck a lot because all Aqua type water level 2 or lower monsters gain 1200 attack. So basically it makes your Duedarks 2400, it makes your Erat Numens go to 1200, it makes your Swap Frogs go up to around 2200, which is just really good to be able to just get all of those different attack points boosted with this particular card. And it says level 2 or lower, which is why it works with the Erat Numen and why I play it in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Medallion of the Ice Barrier. This lets us add an Ice Barrier monster from our deck to our hand, which is super helpful because we're playing 9 in this deck, and it's basically a Rhoda for the deck. And then we're playing 3 copies of Pot of Desires because we don't super need every single card in this deck, and it's okay to banish some cards to get us some draws, which is why I'm playing this card as a 3 of in this deck, because banishing 10 off the top of the deck to be able to get an additional 2 cards in my hand is really helpful, especially if one of those cards is an Erat Numen and a Wetlands. It just goes into some really insane plays. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Paleozoic Canadia. This card is a great 3 of in here, because this card is a Book of Moon that lets you target a face-up monster your opponent controls and change it into face-down defense position. And then once per turn, when a trap card is activated, while this card's in the graveyard, you can special summon this card as a normal monster, Aqua type, level 2, with 1200 attack and 0 defense. And this card is not treated as a trap card, and if the card is summoned this way, it is unaffected by monster effects, and you banish it when it leaves the field, which gives you an additional level 2 Aqua monster to summon to your side of the field to go for totally awesome. We then play 3 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus. Dynamiscus has the ability that you target a card on the field, discard a card, and if you do, you banish the card, which is a really good effect to be able to just immediately banish a card and handle cards on the field. It also has the ability that once per chain, when a trap card is activated, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card to your side of the field as a level 2 1200 attack, 0 defense, Aqua monster, and this card is not treated as an effect card, or this card is not treated as a trap card, and if it's summoned this way, this card is unaffected by monster effects, and it is banished when it leaves the field, which is a really good effect, because if you use this with Wetlands, it gives you 2 2400 attack point monsters in the form of these 2 cards, with basically a Book of Moon and a Karma Cut, which is really, really interesting for this deck. For the last 3 traps we're playing in the deck, I'm playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, because this card helps out a lot with your Paleozoic cards, because it gives you 9 trap cards total for the deck to be able to revolve back through your copies of your cards. And it can also protect your Erat Numen very, very well with this particular card. So that's pretty much it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Totally Awesome, because this card is totally awesome. I love this card in this deck, and it is pretty much the boss monster of the deck, because what it does is once per turn, it requires 2 Aqua monsters to go into it that are level 2. It has the ability that once per turn during the standby phase, you can detach a material from this card to special summon a frog monster from your deck. And then once per turn during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or a monster effect, you can send an Aqua type monster from your hand or face from field to the graveyard, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. Then set the card to your side of the field, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you get to target 1 water monster in the grave and add it back to your hand, which is a great effect for this deck to be able to do, and a really good boss monster for the deck. We then play a single copy of Sky Cavalry, because Sky Cavalry cannot be destroyed by battle while it has an XZ material, and at the end of the damage step, this card battles an opponent's monster, you can detach a material from this card and return the opponent's monster to the hand, which is a really good effect just to give you an additional bounce, and it's great for going into Zeus. We then play a single copy of one of the Paleozoic XZ monsters. This card is really good because it's unaffected by other monster effects, and you can activate Paleozoic traps from your hand, and if this card has a trap as an XZ material, you can detach a material of this card to add a Paleozoic trap from your deck to your hand. Giving you additional searches of your Paleozoic cards is really, really nice. We then play a single copy of Downward Magician, because you can make this on top of any of the XZ monsters besides Zeus, to give the Zeus an additional material, which is super, super helpful to give that Zeus an additional material so you can board wipe your opponent. We then play a single copy of AA Zeus because it helps us board wipe the opponent, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the deck, and it is just a super helpful card for the deck to just throw it on the field and board wipe the opponent just in case you need it. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code gives us all sorts of different pops and is a very good card for this deck. You will be link summoning sometimes in the deck, but usually you're going into your copies of Totally Awesome in the deck. So if you want to change it out for a Boral Sword to make the deck a little bit more budget, you totally can change out that copy of Access Code for a copy of Boraload or Boral Sword. We then play a single copy of Unicorn because it helps us by spinning stuff, a single copy of Phoenix to pop spells and traps, Cerberus to pop monsters, which is super helpful for the deck as well, because basically you're covering all your bases here with something to spin, something to pop spells and traps, and pop monsters, which is really helpful. 1 copy of Marincess, Cruel Anemone, because you get to target a water monster with 1500 or less attack in your graveyard and special summon it to a zone this card points to, which is really helpful to bring back your copy of Erat Numens from the graveyard. We then play a single copy of the Water Charmer. The Water Charmer is really good in this deck because you're playing so many water cards in the deck, and also has the ability that when this card is summoned, you can target 1 water monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to a zone this card points to, and if the summon card is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect while in the own monster zone, then you can add a water monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, which is pretty good because it searches a lot of cards in the main deck. We then play a single copy of Mistar Boy because we go into Mistar Boy all the time in this deck because this card is a really good water monster to boost up with your copies of Wetlands, because if you throw this on the field, it goes to 1900, it boosts your Erat Numen up to 500, and then with your copy of Wetlands, it boosts up to 1700, where your opponent has to deal with the copy of Mistar Boy in order to get to the Erat Numen, because it's already boosting it up by so much, and they can't summon monsters that have 1800, which is really, really good. We then play a single copy of IP Masquerada so we can link summon during our opponent's turn, and this card is a really good card in the deck to link summon into to go ahead and be able to make some really insane plays. And the reason I like Access Code in this deck is because when you play the Access Code, if you guys notice, you're playing 4 different attributes in the deck. We're between Dark, Water, Earth, Fire, or Earth and Fire, which is really good to be able to have all those different attributes in the deck so you can go in for all those pops to OTK your opponent. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really amazing deck. I'm glad that Izzy actually suggested this one because this deck is absolutely crazy bonkers and it's just really fun to play around with, to summon out your copy of Erat Numen to your side of the field and basically just stop your opponent, because it's like tiny like turtles that you're basically stopping your opponent from summoning, because neither player can special summon monsters with 1800 or more attack. It does lock you down a little bit, but basically you're just summoning out your copies of your Wetland or activating Wetlands and then going into your opponent with all of your level 2 Aqua monsters. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.